Hello there. It doesn't take a genius to see that we are so resistant to change. Most of us treat change as if it's the plague. We would rather stick to what's familiar to us, even if it means staying in pain. Basically, we can't stand uncertainty. I did a whole video on this. You can go check it out on YouTube. It's called How to Deal with Uncertainty. Essentially, uncertainty is the state of being when something is either not known or not decided. When something is not known or not decided relative to a circumstance that causes us stress or pain, we feel vulnerable, anxious, and helpless. But what I would like to expose today is that there is a particular kind of uncertainty that causes the vast majority of our unwillingness to change. I'm going to expose that to you. Humans are a group species. What that means is that over the course of our evolution, our survival and ability to thrive was dependent upon being part of the group. We're a social species. We have very real needs that do not go away when we grow older, which are dependent upon other people being there. In fact, most of the emotional needs are related to our connection with other people, such as the need to feel understood, and to feel seen, and to feel heard, and to feel belonging, and to feel connection. This means when we form bonds with others, those attachments are very, very strong. We depend on them so as to not starve emotionally. And in my opinion, emotional starvation is an even bigger threat than actual physical starvation to a physical human. How do we know this? We know this because when you experience somebody going through a heartbreak, oftentimes they stop eating. They drop weight dramatically. They essentially go into a starvation pattern themselves on a physical level, which suggests that physical starvation is not as much of a priority as emotional starvation. We live in a vibrational universe. Everything that you see is energy, and that energy vibrates. It is our vibration which determines what we encounter in this life, because we live in a universe that is based on the law of attraction. Now, generally speaking, over the course of someone's life, their vibration will steadily increase, because we are here on this earth to be in alignment with the expansion of the universe itself. So what you're watching with an individual growing is in fact just a microcosm of the growth that is occurring within source consciousness, or all that is. So in a universe based off of the law of attraction, what do we know? We know that we can only share the space or share a reality with things which are a vibrational match to us. What does this mean? It means that if our vibration changes, we run the risk of not being a match on a vibrational level to something that was a match to our previous vibration before we made that shift. We run the risk of no longer being a match to the people who we are currently bonded with in our current vibration. We run the risk of losing them. We run the risk of losing our connection. This triggers our attachment-based self-preservation system. We would rather preserve our connection at all costs rather than become isolated, which is the number one worst fear for the physical human. It is a torture that far exceeds death, because it means death. We would rather preserve our connection, even if it means dropping anchor in the stream of expansion and staying stuck where we are, in often excruciating pain. The base of the uncertainty that makes it impossible for you to make a change is the uncertainty about whether the people and things that you are connected to and bonded with right now are going to be a match to you once you make that change. Look at the story that you are telling yourself about the things that you're scared to change. I want you to see how at the very root of each one of those fears is in fact the fear that you're going to be losing your connection with someone or something that you don't want to lose connection with. For example, you may come from a background of poverty, and you may not be making the changes to create any kind of abundance in your life. You may tell yourself that you're afraid of success, but is that really true? Or is it that you fear that by becoming successful, you are going to be shunned by your family who has put down rich people all their life and made rich people not one of them? Or you may be afraid to make the change to your life to come out to your parents that you are gay, because you fear that they will reject you. Or you may be afraid to move to a different city because someone in your family needs you, and by moving you will feel guilty and bad because being bad in your childhood led to punishments like timeouts, which is disconnection. You are convinced that moving means losing your connection to them. I've come up with a little nickname for this property within the universe. I call it the catch-up effect. Essentially, anytime you shift your vibration to a higher frequency by making an improvement to your life, The things and people in your life have to essentially vibrationally catch up with the vibration that you are now in. Otherwise, they will fade out of your experience. Now, before you panic, I have some good news. This universe is expanding according to your desire. So what happens when you love someone or you want to stay connected with somebody? You broadcast forth the desire to stay connected to them. And so what happens? Vibrationally, the universe answers that desire. That means if you make a shift and your desire is to stay connected with the other person, and if the other person's desire is to stay connected to you, then all people, places, and things and experiences that will facilitate them catching up to the vibration that you have now shifted into will flow into their experience. Now here's the thing. The universe does that in kind ways and super violent ways as well. In other words, by going with the expansion of your life, by making changes to go towards your desire or towards the improvement, you turn the heat up on the fire that is fueling other people's expansion as well. A while back, I was in the middle of a deep healing process. It was an integration process. And I got to this point within the process that I felt like I was on the precipice of shifting my vibration. I was on the precipice of changing my entire perspective, of changing my boundaries, and of becoming no longer a vibrational match to the current partner that I was with. It scared the crap out of me. I'd lie, like, regardless of the amount that I may be committed to self-growth, at that moment, I felt all the brakes go on. I started crying and I was like, I can't continue with this. Like, I know what's on the other side of continuing with this because I can literally feel myself becoming not a match to the people and places and things and circumstances in my current life. And I don't see how, when I make that shift, they're going to make that shift. Essentially, I knew that by changing, I was risking potentially losing my partner. And I couldn't progress until I actually faced and dealt with that fear specifically. I had to become willing, essentially, for the sake of my own growth, for the sake of my own happiness, to risk the loss of my partner before I was able to proceed. Fortunately, I was in a relationship with a man who was equally as committed to self-growth as me, and so he essentially gave me permission to risk that. He said, don't ever hold your healing back based off of me. I don't want to be the anchor in your life. I'd rather you trust me to catch up. Scared the crap out of me anyway. But why do I tell you this story? Because he did actually later catch up to me, and he made the shift as well. But I tell you this story because I understand how scary it is to get into a space where you know that by making a positive change, you're risking losing someone. And believe me, I have had plenty of experiences where by shifting, I have actually lost people, where they don't make that vibrational jump with me. Most people think it would be an absolute delight to be in a relationship with a spiritual teacher. What they don't realize is, if someone is completely committed to growth, to awareness, to expansion, to riding the wave of change no matter where it takes them, the current of energy flowing through that being is so incredibly strong that it essentially turns the fire up on other people, the fire on other people's expansion, so high that they often get burned by it. It can be agony to continually be forced to play vibrational catch-up with someone you're in a relationship with so as to stay a match to them. But here's a warning. The human ego, being comparative and competitive in nature, is tempted to use this game of vibrational catch-up as a means to strengthen its own sense of superiority. So I don't want you to begin using this catch-up effect as an excuse to fuel your own sense of superiority. A person who is expanding is not better than anyone else. They have simply made the choice to ride the current of expansion. Rather, I want you to use the catch-up effect to understand what is going on in your life when you make a change and why you resist change so much. Even the most unconscious person on earth, someone who's completely unaware of all of this dynamic, is a spiritual being. And so at their core, in the subconscious way, they are aware that making change actually causes them to risk disconnection. So they will resist change like crazy. Oftentimes what we see, if we're unconscious or even if we are conscious, is that the pain of staying in the situation has to become equivalent to the pain of the uncertainty of losing whatever you feel like you're going to lose by making that change. So essentially you have to get to a point where there's nothing to lose in order to make that jump. But let me warn you about something. This universe has absolutely no qualms about making that choice for you. Terminal illness is, in fact, all about this. It's the universe putting you in a you have nothing more to lose, so change scenario. There's an old saying that goes, to get what you want, you have to let go of what you don't want. This feels a bit like letting go of one ledge of a cliff in the hope that another ledge will catch you, so it's completely understandable why we would avoid this at all costs. This is a tormenting degree of uncertainty. But if you're afraid of change, I want you to ask yourself, what or who am I afraid of losing my connection with by making this change? So what would I say to somebody who's suffering from this catch-up effect dynamic in the universe? I would say that the connection you're afraid of losing does not even compare to the connection that you will have on the other side of that space of uncertainty that happens in the middle of change. But I understand that you don't have proof of that yet. So I trust that when the time is right, you will make whatever decision is right for you. I would say to them that the real dilemma of living life on Earth is the fact that upon coming into this life, you essentially committed to expansion. It's the whole purpose for life at all. So you can't shirk the current of expansion. You're not exempt from it. Because you came here to expand. When you give rise to new desires, or when it's obvious that there's improvement that needs to be made, you really have no option except for to go in the direction of it. You don't have to take it from me. Look at your life. The times that you have known that you have to make a change and that you haven't, or that you've given rise to a desire and yet turned in the opposite direction of it by justifying why you can't have that thing, anything that contradicts going in the direction of it. What you learn is that you suffer. Do you want to live your life being held back in the prison of that pain so as to guarantee you will stay connected with someone? Is it even loving to them to do that? Or by doing that, are you preventing their growth, expansion, highest happiness, and healing too? Perhaps the universe is calling you to make this change for the sake of them too, so you can call them into alignment with their expansion. Wouldn't you rather have relationships with things and people in your life where it's about staying a match while you progress together? Not relationships where someone says, I am this way and you need to stay a match to me, regardless of whether or not that's in alignment for your expansion and your growth. Wouldn't you rather have a partner that looks at you in the face and is able to say, don't hold your healing back, or your happiness back, or your growth back to stay with me? What I would rather do is to catch up so that you and I can run together, so that we can progress together, so we can grow together. Wouldn't you rather be this kind of person in relationships also? It's important that we look at how we're not doing this when it comes to other people, how we may be holding them back. Wouldn't you rather be the kind of person who can look at somebody in the face and say, don't hold yourself back for my sake. Trust me to make whatever shift I need to make. And by virtue of wanting to stay together, let's trust that our shifts will allow that to happen. On a conscious level, no one wants anyone to hold themselves back. So what we need to do is to collectively take a deep look at and to begin healing our trauma around separation, disconnection, and isolation. Awareness is the principal ingredient to change. So just becoming aware of the catch-up effect and about the fact that it is in fact to blame for why we do not make the changes that we need to make in our life will enable us to look this particular fear straight in the face, to find resolution for it, and to eventually move beyond it so that we can actually make the changes to our life that will benefit us the most. Have a good week.